Daichi has moved on to Lugia.
At least if Daichi loses, he will know that his love won the game. So he will probably be fine either way. Of course, I'm pretty sure he will be happier if he actually defeats Mew VMAX here. But he played Mew VMAX yesterday. In Japan, Mew VMAX was the national winning deck, so I think especially the Japanese players are super prepared on how to play this matchup. They already tested it so much for their own national championship. Yeah, Daichi played so much with the deck yesterday, so if anyone knows how to play this matchup, it should be Daichi.
Yeah, we do see a Radiant Serena prize for Daichi, which is not ideal. 1 Lugia, V-Star, 1 Archeops is not the end of the world. 2 Ultra Ball, 1 Mew VMAX, 4 Seal Stone. There are 3 in the deck for Caleb. He's not messing around with 4 Seal Stone. So nothing horrendous. Probably Radiant Serena is the most relevant thing that's prized, but I think there's nothing there which is going to completely derail either of these players.
Yeah, it looks completely fine. Nothing like we had yesterday. We had a lot of games that were almost completely decided by which cards were in the prizes.
2 Zacian V when you
and
play
the Rals.
And the Rals in the same game, which is absurd. Like when you play 2 of your one-off just to avoid prizes. But we are off, ladies and gentlemen. Round 1 of day 2 of the World Championships 2023. And we are starting off with Daichi Shimada with that Lugia V-Star deck. And it seems like we're going to start off with a V-Guard energy. Can we get any Archeops in the discard pile nice and early?
Oh, this is actually a very good start. I mean, of course, yeah, maybe you want to get more damage. Usually, the Mew V-Star deck tries to put Archeops in the discard pile as soon as possible. But having the V-Guard energy and also Path to the Peak is, very important against Mew VMAX. As we see Mew VMAX starting with the Battle VIP path, but just having a Battle VIP path is not enough if you're facing up against Path to the Peak, because it prevents your Genesect V from using their Fusion Strike system ability, which is the whole reason why the Mew deck is so powerful in the first place.
Yeah, it completely revolves around drawing a ridiculous amount of cards with your Genesect. But when Path to the Peak is out, Genesect can't draw any cards. We see some players saying Spirit Tomb for the same reason. Yes. It turns off, Genesect's ability, your basic Pokemon V abilities in general. And you'll see it on the screen right there. And that's because if you let Mew go, Mew goes just super fast. But you need a counter stadium now. Oh, there is 2 Lost Vacuum in hand, actually. So Caleb is going to be able to bump that stadium and then at least start getting some draw going. And actually, to be fair, actually Lost Vacuum makes you Lost Zone a card from your hand, which is actually quite good with Genesect because it lowers your hand size by 1, and Genesect draws until you've got as many cards in hand as Fusion Strike Pokemon in play, so it actually allows you to draw an extra card as well. So Caleb's got a hand that can deal with this.
Yeah, this is a very powerful situation here because in theory, if Caleb really wants to try to go for it, he could even win this turn. Melodious Echo does 70 damage for each Fusion Strike energy in play, and you can use Elesa Sparkle, which we even see hit the field to attach 2 Fusion Strike energy to 2 of your Fusion Strike Pokemon. And you just need to attach 1 more from your hand. There's a 3 energy in play, 210 damage. You're still 10 damage short, but the Fusion Strike deck plays Power Tablet and also Choice Belt. So we are already basically there.
We need an energy. Here, literally an energy. Mew's got free retreat. So 1 more energy onto the Meloetta. It has to be a Fusion Strike energy. That's 210, plus a Choice Belt is 240.
Yeah, there might have been the argument to maybe not attach the Choice Belt and you go for an Ultra Ball instead, because now you can play Escape Rope and then you can draw 2 cards, but these 2 cards you draw are super important. So let's see if... Oh, you bet you have Ultra Ball in hand, so you definitely can draw more cards. Yeah, I'm so now correcting myself, so that was a completely fine play. You can get the next Genesect, now you draw 4 cards, and if there is a Fusion Strike energy card or another Genesect or another way to get another Genesect, you can keep going. If there is the energy, the game is over for Daichi. So very, very important that Caleb had that Lost Vacuum in the opening hand. As we see,
the Forest Seal Stone, which he can activate.
And the Forest Seal Stone seals up the game. Daichi is just waiting, like, the prize? No? Okay. Attack. That's it.
And Caleb Gedemer wins game 1 super quickly. This is why. Now, we have the 2 versions of Mew VMAX. We've got what we call the Fusion list, which plays Meloetta, and then we've got the Double Turbo list, which just plays Double Turbo Energy and only attacks a Mew V Max. This Fusion list, as it's often called with the Meloetta, the huge advantage it has is turn 1 going second attack with Meloetta. And we just saw in that game why that is so important, because Daichi passes with just one Lugia, and that's it. It's over straight away.
Yeah, also the Fusion Strike Energy allows you to bypass Spiritomb from your opponent, so this is the reason why it's like so popular. Like, it used to be the less popular version of the deck, but now with Spiritomb existing in the format, a lot of players think they have no choice but to play the Fusion Strike Energy. Yeah, for Daichi it was very unfortunate, because he did have the Path to the Peak, which is usually very strong against Mew VMAX. Of course, they try to play as many cards as they can to negate this kind of play with Path to the Peak. But it is kind of one of the few things you can do to stop Mew VMAX, especially in the Lugia deck, where often if you're like, you don't want your opponent to play Path to the Peak against you, because your own ability is so important. But Mew VMAX is just such a strong card that some people feel like they need to include the Path to the Peak themselves. At least there will be no tie right now. So.
I think a tie is looking pretty unlikely. To quickly circle back to what you said about Fusion Strike Energy, of course we said about the Spiritomb that turns off Genesect's ability, but the Fusion Strike Energy stops effective abilities done to Pokemon with the Fusion Strike Energy attached. So you do have to use the attachment onto your Genesect, or indeed a Lesser Sparkle as we saw there, but any Genesect with Fusion Strike Energy can still draw under that Spiritomb lock. So yeah, you're absolutely correct when you say it really is gaining popularity because of that. Looking at the prizes, Daichi, yeah, a bunch of one-offs, nothing is going to worry me too much here. So I think Daichi's going to be happy with that.
Yeah, completely fine prize cards. Caleb did have a mulligan, which allows Daichi to draw one extra card. And this time his hands, I still didn't get a peek of it. But it looks much better. At least there are two basic Pokemon.
That is always
not see another game like that.
Oh, it looks like we got a second. Is that a second mulligan?
Yes, it is.
So the way mulligans work, if you don't have a basic Pokemon in your opening hand, your opponent can draw an extra card and you get a new opening hand. But we changed it a couple of years ago. Now, you count the number of mulligans your opponent has, then you choose how many cards you want to take, and you take them all at the same time. It used to be you could take them one at a time and then decide if and when you wanted to stop drawing. But now, if your opponent mulligans 4 times, you have to basically announce how many of those you're going to take beforehand. Because obviously with cards like Professor's Research that scars your entire hand, sometimes you want to take like 1 or 2 extra cards. Oh, I've got a Professor's Research, I'm going to stop drawing now. Nowadays, you have to take them all at once.
Yeah, as we see the players opening, and here we see the Stone Journer. Very interesting addition to the deck. It's a single prize fighting attacker, which is very strong against Arceus decks.
Yep.
And also nice Pokemon to just open with, because if it gets knocked out while your opponent only draws a single prize card. Yeah, Daichi benching 2 Lugia V. We see another V-Guard Energy coming down. I'm also pretty sure that I saw Luminion in hand. So he's probably already planning his next turn ahead.
He's actually got, the name is escaping me.
Professor Burnett.
Thank you. Lets you discard 2 cards from your deck, which was designed for V-Union cards, but can be used to just discard your 2 Archeops next turn. So if Daichi's got a V-Max next turn, his turn is looking absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, but the most scary turn is, of course, always the very first one from your opponent Pokemon, from your opponent's Fusion Mew. We see a Battle VIP pass, which is able to search for potentially 2 Genesect or 1 Genesect, 1 Mew, just to set up your board a little bit. Having 2 Genesect allows you to draw more cards, but having Mew gives you a good Pokemon where you can just attach an energy card to if you draw into it.
He does have a Genesect in hand.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so maybe
we'll probably see a 1-1 here, and then he'd have 3 Genesect, 1 Mew, which I think is... Yeah, I would imagine 1 Genesect, 1 Mew here.
Yeah, to draw more cards, you always need to get rid of your hand cards, so... like... playing with your resources is a little bit difficult, so this is why like very new Fusion Strike players often do like smaller mistakes. It's similar to the Lost Zone deck where you often have to discard cards and then you discard the wrong one at the beginning of the game and it costs you the game like 5 turns later. Yeah, as we see a very strong showing here. You want to have as many Pokemon on your bench as you can. There is the Ice Cube in Caleb's hand, which is probably considering putting down or not, because it doesn't do too much in this matchup, but it's just one less card in your hand and one more card in play, which means you draw more cards with your Fusion Strike systems.
Absolutely. You draw until you've got a number of cards in hand equal to the number of Fusion Strike Pokemon in play, and Ice Cube is very much a Fusion Strike Pokemon. So, we see a turn 1 Iono here from Caleb. Not exactly what Mew is known for. There's only one Iono in Caleb's deck. But we've also got the Forest Seal Stone there, and this is in decks that can use it like Mew. And when Forest Seal Stone was initially revealed, everyone was like, oh my goodness, Mew just got so much better. Because you can search any card at any point. So you can either use it turn 1 to help yourself get set up. I imagine that's not going to be the case here for Caleb because he's got a pretty good board state going. Or the turn you can't find double turbo. The turn you really need a boss's orders. The turn you need to have, and the main thing here, of course, is a counter to something like Path to the Peak. That's when you're going to use it. And I imagine Caleb is going to save it for that reason. And I know it feels weird sometimes. Path to the Peak turns off Pokemon's abilities, and Forest Seal Stone gives you an ability, but it's really an ability you can use, not an ability you have.
Exactly.
So it works even when Path to the Peak is out, which I know confused a lot of players when that ruling first came down.
Yeah, it is kind of like your backup plan. You can just leave it in play, and you only need it exactly when you use it. And Lugia decks, they often play Lost Vacuum to get rid of Path to the Peak, for example. You can also use it to get rid of a Forest Seal Stone. I don't think you usually use it to get rid of 2 Forest Seal Stones. Of course, the third one doesn't do anything because it is attached to an Ice Cube. Now back to Daichi's turn. One small thing you might have noticed is when Caleb played the Iono, Daichi took a really good look at his hand, because Iono puts the cards on the bottom of your deck. So these are cards that are not available to you to draw if you, for example, play your own Iono. So it completely changes like your outs. And maybe sometimes that creates situations where you want to just like artificially shuffle your deck or opt to not shuffle your deck before you play a card you draw. And I think that he's even taking notes of the cards that are on the bottom. I see the hand is going off screen, so it looks like he's just taking notes on what exactly is at the bottom of his deck, so he can make these better choices. As we see Daichi's hand not looking amazing again.
I think now, if we just... Yeah, no, we do have the double V-Star, which is nice, but of course, we need to get into the discard pile those 2 Archeops. Oh my goodness, we see a pass. No Archeops in the discard pile at all. So we saw his own Iono play by Daichi, but unfortunately, this is not going great. You do not want to give Mew extra turns. Oh, and this escape rope is big. Forces, it's going to be the Lugia with no energy.
Well, it is difficult because the V-Star energy might be able to
save a KO.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you get your 2 Archeops in play from that point onward, you have energy acceleration anyway, so the energy attached from your hand is not too important. That's why I thought, like, having just Lugia V-Guard energy at the first time last game might have been fine. Yeah, it didn't work out that way. But yeah, Daichi now choosing to put the V-Guard energy active, which means that Caleb needs to deal 310 damage. But there's only 1 power tablet, already 1 power tablet in the discard.
Yes, so Mew does 210,
exactly.
but it's reduced by 20, so it'll be a double turbo energy probably,
yes.
Which is 190. And then you need to add, so we need 4 damage modifiers. So actually we would need, oh no, we got fusion energy on the Mew. So now we're hitting 210, so we would need actually still 4 modifiers because 3 would only go up to 200.
Yeah, I think so too.
So that would be all 3 power tablet and a choice bout. Now to be fair, we've got the choice bout, we've got a power tablet, but there are 2 power tablet in the deck, and I think Caleb needs both of these now to get a KO on this Lugia.
I think only 1 power tablet because you deal 210 plus now 60 right now. That's 270. Oh, 270, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
and then
correctly, yeah. So
1 more would go
tablets.
300, but the V-Guard energy, I believe, would save you.
Yeah, very complicated here.
Yeah,
Caleb
the math
needs
gets
to
awkward.
find 1 power tablet, and then he can use the Seal Stone to get the last one. As we see a Judge coming down. A Judge is a very strong card, especially in Mew decks, because you have Genesect anyways. You can just draw off to a full hand after you played the Judge. But an early Judge can especially throw off decks, like Lugia, for example, that needs to have a lot of cards in hand to do a lot of things. So this might become a problem for Daichi, even if Caleb is not able to take the knockout. as Caleb is probably still just trying to find the next power tablet.
Yeah, Judge is, on the one hand, Judge is even, that it gives both players a new hand to 4. On the other hand, Judge is not even, because Caleb's got his Genesect, which is just going to let him draw card after card after card, and Daichi has not got any Archeops in the discard pile yet.
Power tablet, and even the Cramomatic. So
with a head flip, he's actually got this.
With a head flip, you don't need to use the Forest Sealstone, because Caleb still hasn't used the V-Star power. So
I think he's got the KO if he wants it here. Do we see a head? This is a big flip. I don't know what happened.
He's like a Tails.
He's not searching for a card, but we see the power tablet, and yeah, I think you called it, David. The Forest. Oh no.
Yeah, first you go for
draw.
Yeah, if you just happen to draw into it, fine. You don't have to search for anything.
That was the last Genesect though, so I think now it is going to be Forest Sealstone. I think when you're this committed, you have to Forest Sealstone.
Yeah, I agree. But let's see if Caleb also agrees with us. The hand he drew, yeah, it's completely fine if you know. Yeah, and if we see Forest Sealstone, let's hope Caleb checked his prize cards correctly early in the game, having the last power tablet. Yeah, as we see the last power tablet now, Caleb has no power tablets in his deck, but just in a very explosive turn, Judge, and then also the knockout with the Lost City as well, which is not too relevant in this situation. But it's just too much pressure for Daichi. It's very difficult now to get Archeops into the discard pile, and you need to put them both in play and also get an attacker off. Usually in this matchup you try to attack, for example, with Yveltal.
Yes.
Because Yveltal is able to... Oh no! Professor's Research without Archeops is hurtful.
No, that is not. That's the whole reason you play Professor's Research, is to discard the Archeops. I mean, we're going to need something like Ultra Ball Archeops here, or it's Professor Burnett, but you can't play a second supporter. I think we might be near the end of this game here, David, because we don't have any Archeops in the discard pile as it stands at the moment. There's no way to get any in the discard pile right now. There is an Archeops in hand, but I don't see a way to discard it. The good news is Daichi is passing, and essentially Mew now is locked in at 240.
Yes. I mean, in theory, you can... Yeah, I mean, in theory, you can use, like, Meloetta, but now the bench is full anyway, so you can, like, copy Block Slider from Ice Cube, for example. In this situation, it doesn't really make too much sense, as Caleb is just retreating, taking with the other Mew, just to have the more powerful Mew in the back. For situations later on, and just get some damage off the Lugia.
Yeah, and I like this, because essentially what you're saying here is just, I'm so far ahead, I don't need to rush anymore. I did my big one-hit KO, that got me so far ahead in the game. At this stage, I can just kind of do decent damage. We finally see Professor Burnett coming down, and Daichi is obviously going to search his deck for 2 Archeops and discard them. Assuming they are in there. Yes, there are. Yeah. He's playing a full 4, because one's in his hand and one's in the prizes. But he is playing the full 4 copies here, so he should be able... I'm pretty sure there are 2 in his deck here, so he should be able to discard both of those, use Lugia's V-Star power to then get them out of the deck, and then start accelerating energy. But Caleb needs to start getting big KOs now. It needs to be these turns. This turn, Caleb is about to go up by 4 prizes. If Daichi can, maybe KO of Yveltal here, then all of a sudden, you're actually 1 prize ahead, with a 1 prizer in the active, and that changes things. If Daichi doesn't get a KO on the Mew this turn, I do not like his chances at all. If I didn't see his hand well enough, if he can get a KO this turn, he's not in a terrible position.
Yeah, this is also, I think, might be the first time Daichi's even searching his deck. Like, he's looking at his deck very carefully, taking notes, so this looks like he's actually just checking for the prize card. We do see a Tyranitar V in Daichi's hand, so he can attack with Tyranitar V, but the problem is, Caleb retreated the Mew, which was a very smart play, because now the Mew on the bench with 2 Fusion Energy cards, 2 Fusion Strike Energy cards, is able to deal 240 damage.
Yep.
Which is exactly enough to take the knockout on Tyranitar V if Daichi is using that option. So it's a very difficult situation, yeah.
That would still not be the end of the world, though, because that would put Caleb at 2 prizes remaining, Daichi at 3 prizes remaining, and then a KO with someone like an Yveltal would then give Daichi the win.
True.
By taking 3 prizes and 3. So you're absolutely correct. Tyranitar, not the best option here, but if Daichi can get a KO with Tyranitar, that would still be a way to keep himself in the game. Now, we did get the double Archeops down. We do see Tyranitar hitting the bench here. Now, Fusion Strike, Single Strike Energy is going to be very, very important here. You can only play 4, but you do have Urn of Vitality to allow you to put them from your discard pile back into your deck. Now, I know there is an Urn of Vitality prized.
Yeah, and you also have the V-Guard energy. I'm not entirely sure how many V-Guard energy are left, but with V-Guard energy, Tyranitar would even be able to tank a turn, something I forgot in
No,
the
that's a good shout, David. You got it before the end of the turn. You're good, man. You're good. That's an excellent point. V-Guard energy would put Mew out of range of getting a KO on the Tyranitar. So this could be a pivotal turn that keeps Daichi in this series.
Yeah, very important turn here. And Daichi's also thinking about it. He has to be very sure what he's doing, but like I said in the opening, if there is one player that knows exactly how Mew can play this matchup, it is Daichi, as we see I think a gift energy coming down and also the V-Guard energy.
Yep.
If you don't know exactly what you're doing, you might be tempted to just attach 2 V-Guard energy, or Daichi knows exactly this is too much, but the gift energy will just make me completely Iono-proof, completely Judge-proof. Let's go for it this way. As we see with the one-hand attachment, you can retreat the active Pokemon and just take your 3 prize cards here. Tyranitar's attack is a little bit risky because it discards 4 cards of your own deck, which sometimes discards exactly the cards that you're still needing to win, which opens up ways for your opponent to outplay you. But I would just say,
Gotta be done.
attack with it and let's see what happens.
I mean, I played an absurd amount of the Cosmic Eclipse Excadrill, which also milled 4 of your own when you attack. And yeah, sometimes the discard is absolutely just incredibly rough, but you've got to do it here. If Daichi could get the KO with Yveltal here, you've got to imagine he would. He's not got the option. He doesn't have the access to that card right now. So you take the KO with Tyranitar, and sure, it's going to be awkward potentially next turn, but what are you going to do? And, that's not a bad discard.
Well, there was one boss discarded, and you saw Daichi playing with his Luminion, because
he just got boss of surprises.
I was about to say that. He checked his prize cards very well, and he knows. In theory, Caleb can do some tricks with Ice Cube, which we are probably going to see this turn, because if you attack with Rio Mimax, the game is basically over. So Caleb will probably try to get block slider, just take a knockout on the Lugia on the bench, and then you have only 2 prize cards left, and you can take the 2 prize cards in a different way. Yeah, but for Daichi, he just wants a boss. So he was thinking about, well, do I actually play the Luminion to get my boss out of my deck so I don't mill it? He took a little bit of a risk, attacking with Tyranitar, actually discarding the boss, but then also drawing boss from the prize card. So yeah, Daichi is completely safe.
Right now, Daichi is looking very, very good. Caleb, I don't think can KO the Tyranitar. The V-Guard energy gives it an effective HP of 260. And Mew, even with not having the energy reduced by double turbo, even with the choice bout, you're basically doing 240.
But you can use choice belt Meloetta. Because it is not energies attached to itself, it's energy in play. So there are already 2 fusion energy in play. If you get a third, that's 210 damage. And then with a choice belt, that's 240. But you actually need 2 energy to attack.
So
and if you use a double turbo energy, you're dealing less damage. So you actually have to use 1 hand attachment and then 1 Elisa Sparkle to attach a single energy card. I just hope for Caleb that the last fusion energy card is not in the prizes. As we see, just a completely different play here. Escape rope. Looks like Caleb is not trying to go for the Meloetta play. I'm very interested in what is the play now.
He's got Meloetta into the active. Now, you're right. Unless a Sparkle and an energy attachment to Mew would get a KO on the Tyranitar, and Daichi's got to be loving this. You want your Tyranitar to still be there. Daichi's plan is very, very, very simple. I'm going to boss your Mew and KO with Tyranitar.
Yes.
If Tyranitar gets KO'd, which is, like you say, possible with Meloetta, it's awkward, but it is within the realms of possibility, then all of a sudden you've got to get another Tyranitar or an Yveltal, but then you're going to have to use Urn of Vitality to get your single strike energy back into the deck, and it's just awkward at that stage. So, doable, but if Daichi ends a turn with his hand undisrupted and Tyranitar on the bench, Daichi's going to be feeling great. And remember, Caleb plays 1 Iono, and we've already seen it played this game. It's not coming back. I don't think. Did it get power padded back in? I don't think it did.
I'm not 100% sure.
I
As
don't
we see,
think
Caleb
it did.
just pivoting Mew out of the active spot, putting Meloetta active.
Oh, we're good.
And It
we're
looks
good.
like Daichi won the game, right?
Yeah, Jet Energy is going to be able to get Tyranitar into the active. We know he's got Boss's Orders in hand to grab that Mew active, KO with the Tyranitar for 4 prizes, and that is going to be everything we need for Daichi to just even this up at 1 game each. We get a full best of 3 here, David.
Let's go. That's exactly what I was looking forward to. Yeah, it didn't look too well for Daichi at the very beginning, but in this game you just saw how powerful the Lugia deck is against Mew, because you have your Darkness Pokémon. You just are not worried about energy attachment at all because you have Arceus in play. Of course, you mentioned the Jet Energy card. It only works if you attach it from your hand and use Arceus to attach it, but
Yes.
it's just 1 energy you can attach, and then also attach more energies to just pay the retreat cost, which is something that the Lugia deck's basically always able to do. You
They've
can
got
always just...
Arceus.
Exactly. You have 2 of them even.
Yeah.
You can attach as many energy cards as you like, as long as there's enough left in the deck, and just pay the retreat cost. Yeah, also the V-Guard energy, putting in a lot of work in this matchup specifically.
And there was a little Easter egg in the highlights there. That coin flip that we didn't see the result. We got a little look. We got a little look at
Finally.
it coming up tail. The little Easter egg for those of you that are paying close attention on the stream at home. That was a big attack with the Tyranitar. And yeah, that Tyranitar, the South Milling is awkward. I will agree, it's very awkward. But when you can announce that attack twice and win the game, I mean, it's just... And I love that Luminium play you highlighted. That is a top level play. That, do I Luminium for Boss's Orders now so it can't be milled? And then the fact that he chose not to and it did get milled is really kind of annoying.
And also he didn't have, because he didn't have the Boss's Order, he was still thinking about, well, my opponent plays part of the P. So if your opponent plays past to the P, then you also can't use your Luminion anymore. But if you go for Luminion now, your opponent can just Iono you. And then that opens up the possibility for your opponent to just, well, maybe even play, like we saw, Boss's Order, order something up, there is a pass to the P to the play, and you can't get to your own Boss's Order and you lose. Yeah, but Daichi was kind of lucky, got the boss from the prize card, so yeah, no worry about that, as we saw. Yeah, very interesting game too, just showing you how strong Lugia V-Star actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to note, of course, Daichi knew there was a boss prize, and Daichi knew he was taking 3 prizes.
Yes.
So we knew he had a 50-50 shot at getting a boss's orders from the prizes, and we've basically a coin flip again. So
yeah, it was a very calculated risk, and this is the kind of calculation, the kind of strategy you have to use. We know Daichi already showed everyone in the world that he has the possibility, he is smart enough, well trained enough to do all of this, which we saw at the last World Championship. Maybe he's even able to take it to the finals again.
I mean, that would be very fun to see. Always nice, of course. We had this weird thing where a Japanese player won Worlds every 6 years, like clockwork.
Oh.
2004, 2010, 2016, they were the 3 years a Japan player won Masters Final in Worlds. But last year was 2022, and we didn't have a Japanese player winning. But then we missed 2 years of Worlds. We had it cancelled 2 years in a row.
Yes.
So, I don't know, like, is it time for a Japanese player to win Worlds again, or do we have to wait for next year?
I think the Japanese player, they have the big home advantage, especially this year.
Yes.
None of them have jet lag. Instead of doing sightseeing, they all just trained, kept on practicing, as other players were like, well, I'm in Japan for the first time, let's enjoy my time here. So they've definitely probably statistically better prepared. Of course, individually there might be a difference. We see Tyranitar in the prize cards. There are 2 in the deck, so that's still safe. And starting with a Serena, it's not too important. I think not very important at all in this matchup specifically. So that's also probably something that Daichi's not actually pretty happy about. Yeah.
We saw it prized 1 game, we saw it milled by Tyranitar in the other game, and they see it starting in the 3rd game. We do see Caleb here starting with a Battle VIP pass, of course. The good news is that, Caleb, for Daichi, is that Caleb can't just KO the Serena because it's turn 1, you can't attack turn 1 going first. The bad news is that by the time Daichi gets a Lugia V-Star, Caleb is going to have had 2, almost full turns. No supporter or attack turn 1, but supporters are not really that important to the Mew deck, not for drawing cards. You draw with your Genesect. So when this Mew deck goes first, sure, you don't get that kind of big turn 1 KO potential, but you get a lot of drawing and a lot of resources before your opponent really gets going. And Lugia basically does nothing on turn 1.
Yeah,
turn 1 is a prep turn.
What's also very important is, if the Mew deck goes first, you can have your explosives turn 1, set everything up, and then next turn you can play Boss's Orders on a non-evolved Pokemon, specifically Lugia, for example, and you can take a knockout on Lugia without using any power tablets, in theory, which is important, as we saw. You really need your power tablets later on in the game to take these big knockouts against Pokemon that have V-Guard energy attached to them. So yeah, in this game, we do not see Ice Cube, we just see the Melata immediately. Caleb also realizing, well, yeah, I mean, last game he kind of had to put it down just to draw the cards.
Yeah.
But now he's not forced to use Ice Cube, so go for Melata, which is definitely the better choice.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is generally what Mew players want to see. 3 Genesect, 2 Mew, 1 Meloetta. And just piggybacking on your point a second ago about the Lugia and the boss's orders, you're 100% correct. Daichi needs double Lugia.
Yes.
Daichi has to get 2 Lugia V out. If you go first, you can go with just 1 and it's fine. You cannot end the turn with a single Lugia. Now we do see a boss's orders
setting the discard pile.
So there is 1 in the discard pile from that professor's research, I should say. Do we see a second Lugia V or a way to act? Yes, we do. Okay, that is absolutely huge.
Nice.
And there is a professor's research for next turn, potentially. So no Archeops in hand yet, but this is not a bad start. So, yeah, I'm all right if I'm Daichi here.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice. We also saw Caleb sitting on the Path to the Peak, which is a card which can be very strong for actually both of these players, if it's played in exactly the right moment. But if played in the wrong moment, it's such a difficult card to deal with for both of these decks. But it's super interesting that it's like both of these decks play them to counter the other one.
Yeah, they really do. I've seen enough games on stream this year where Mew players will play a Path to the Peak to, you know, stop Lugia using his V-Star power. But then there's 3 turns in a row where they can't use Genesect and they can't find the Lost Vacuum or a Counter Stadium. They just draw nothing and lose. I've commentated those games this season. It's really awkward. But then again, Lugia does basically nothing until you get the Archeops V-Star out. So Path to the Peak can be big, but it really is that question of how much is it hurting me? Now, we do see Power Tablet basically just burn to draw an extra card, but we saw these damage modifiers, especially against big Pokemon with V-Guard energy, they can be very, very valuable in the mid to late game.
Yeah, but now that Daichi did play 2 Lugia V, which was very important to counter like a potential boss play, but because you have 2 Lugia V in play, it means your opponent can also play an Escape Rope to get the same knockout. Of course, yeah, the Power Tablet is not something that you want to just throw in early at the game, but this is kind of the destiny that I think Mew players have. You need to draw so many cards that often you draw into Power Tablet and you know, well, I just have to use it because I need to draw more cards. As we see, Caleb preparing for a much bigger play. We see the Forest Seal Stone being attached, which is the one card that can give you the last kind of piece that you need, as Caleb is now just trying to get either an energy or an Escape Rope.
Yeah, either would be all right here. We've got it looks like a Cramomatic getting rid of an Ultra Balls. This is a big flip here right in the middle of the table. It is a Tails, so no extra card from Cramomatic. And that looks like that might be... oh no, we seem to have 1 Genesect left, so Caleb can still access a couple more cards in his deck. He's just deciding he could potentially play the Power Tablet, or he could just put Path to the Peak down and wait till next turn if he wants to. Actually, Meloetta, I believe, is now in range of getting a KO on the Serena.
Yes, it
so it might just be...
And it's also still not too late to take a knockout on on Lugia, for example, with the Meloetta as well. This is very difficult because you kind of don't want to use too many cards, but you also need to draw a lot. Yeah, so Caleb here now, well, he's a more experienced Mew player than I am.
Nothing good off of that last Genesect, David. Energy and Power Pad. Nothing he really wanted there at all. I mean, he played a Power Pad to get Iono back, I suppose, but I'm not seeing a pivoting option in his hand.
Yeah, this really hurts. Well, you can use the Forest System for like the last piece, but right now you have 2 energy, 2 Power Tablets. That's 200 damage, right?
Yes, correct.
So not enough. You would need 1 more damage modifier. Yeah, as we see Caleb just...
He's Path to the Peak judging. Judge Path.
Yeah.
And this is a combination we see a lot from players. Essentially, Judge puts your opponent down to a 4-card hand. Path to the Peak turns off their abilities, so it basically forces Daichi to try and get a second Archeops in the discard pile, and the Counter Stadium, and the Lugia V-Star, just to get rolling next turn from a 4-card hand, which is incredibly awkward.
Yeah, and it also turns off Luminion, which is kind of the safe bet that you still have. Like you can hit like maybe a Roma for it, or you can get an Ultra Ball. Let's see what Caleb is drawing, because the escape rope would still be very nice to have in this situation.
Didn't get either piece. It's
Not
Ice
a
Cube,
very
2
nice
Nest Ball, and a
hand.
double turbo. Oh, and he just passes.
This is not looking well for Caleb.
No, but if you're going to pass after a Judge Path, because at least then you put your opponent in a super awkward situation. And to be fair, Daichi does play 2 Luminion V, so it is an important card. That is turned off right now. So we see a Tails here on capturing a Roma. That means a basic Pokemon.
I think this is exactly what he wanted, because if I'm correct, there was a Stadium card in Daichi's hand.
Oh, if there's a Stadium, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, a lot of the time you're looking for that head, so you can go and get yourself either the Archeops or a Lugia V-Star. If he's got a Counter Stadium, then yeah, hard agree, then the Luminion here would be amazing. He's not looking like he's loving the choice, though.
No, I wouldn't really like it too. Like benching your Luminion is just a liability to have on your bench, because yeah, Mew VMAX decks, they have so much draw power that they can just get into the boss. As we see, also Professor Burnett just coming down, so Daichi opting to not actually go for the play, just search the deck for. Oh, he was. Wait, what?
He's using
very
Professor,
difficult. Yeah,
he's just counting this is a deck search. He's just counting the energy here.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like what the line of players that you're trying to go for, because I mean he didn't look too happy with the tails. If he would have flipped heads, he could have already get like 2 Archeops in play, and then yeah, probably just attack with a very big like Lugia V with a lot of V guard energy attached to it. That was probably the line of play there. But now there is Luminion in hand,
Lugia
or
will
maybe
get
I.
Genesect. Lugia should be able to KO Genesect, right?
Yes.
So maybe that's kind of a look. I don't need both my Lugia, so use one to kind of trade 2 for 2, and then I can get a KO on a Mew and maybe even a Meloetta, and then that's 6 prizes. You know, being able to finish off with that single prize KO can sometimes be a big advantage. I mean, I imagine that's kind of where we're going here. It's just guaranteeing you've got the Archeops in the discard pile. I want to see his hand again, because
Yeah, I was not 100% sure if the Stadium card in Daichi's hand was Mesagosa or Collapse Stadium, which changes basically the way that you can play now. But Daichi is going for a little bit more conservative. He also knows that Path to the Peak is in play.
yes.
And Caleb only has 4 hand cards, which are probably not very good from Daichi's perspective. Well, you play Judge and then you didn't play any cards afterwards.
Yep.
And there is a Path to the Peak in play, which Daichi plays against Mew. So he knows, well, if my opponent really wants to do anything, my opponent has to get rid of the Stadium anyway. And then I can use that to my advantage.
I don't. There is a Stadium. I cannot. There's a second card in his hand. I do believe there is a Counter Stadium. But yeah, I think you might be right here, David. Just kind of, you know what? And here's the thing. Against most decks, there's always a decent chance you've got a draw supporter.
Yes.
But Mew plays very, very few draw supporters. 1 Judge, 1 Iono. That's literally it.
Yep.
The Judge is in the discard pile. The Iono did get power padded back. Caleb has 1 out as a draw supporter. And it looks like we got a manual retreat with a double turbo energy into Meloetta just to KO Radiant Serena here. Yeah, that's literally the play. That's what we see here. That is not exactly what Caleb wanted to do. So now Daichi's got, capturing him. This is huge. We need a heads here because we want Lugia V-Star. It's a Tails. That gets a basic Pokemon. Could go and get, say, an Yveltal as an attacker.
Yes, for example.
But
just
you wanted heads there.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Daichi probably has to get rid of the Stadium, use Luminion for Professor's Research, just draw into more cards. There is also the Stonjourner, which is also able to just take a easy knockout on Meloetta, for example.
Yeah, that would work.
Daichi just does not want to give too many prize cards to the opponent, while also keeping the Archeopses in play. As we see, the Collapse Stadium, Luminion for Professor's Research. The question now is, Daichi did have a Nest Ball in his hand. Whether he wants to already get an attacker in play as well. Nest Ball would thin out your deck, but then you only have 1 bench space left because of the Collapse Stadium. So it really depends on what Daichi is now thinking. What do I really want to do, and what is likely to happen now that I play the Professor's Research?
And
as we see him just discarding Stone Journal, also the Nest Ball, which is very interesting to me.
Well, I think one of the interesting things here, with the old version of the deck wasn't so much like this, but you're really reliant on your single strike energy.
Yes.
If Eltor needs it, Stone Journal needs it, Tyranitar needs it, and you can recover it with your Urn of Vitality. But
oh, there's only two, yeah, there's only 2 bench spaces left because it's a stadium, so you can't bench anything else. So, but you can just attack with Luminion, right? If
you can attack with, no, not with Luminion
there is
anymore.
no...
No,
true.
It used to be that you would have the energy that
yeah, there is no way to attack with Luminion.
So you're forced into attacking with Lugia here. But I say, I don't think that's the end of the world, because those single strike energy, I have seen enough Lugia players lose because they don't have enough single strike energy. I do not mind this line of play here, where you kind of KO the Meloetta, you then get your big KO with your fusion, with your single strike energy onto a Mew, and then you can finish off a Genesect with a Lugia without the single strike energy, and then that part of the game where you're searching for that urn and trying to recover your single strike energy is kind of taken away. So that's what I'm thinking here. Don't get me wrong, I think Stone Journal here would be great, but as an alternate line, I think it's quite simple. You KO the Meloetta, big KO with one of your Darkness Boys, and then you just finish off a Genesect with Lugia.
Yeah, exactly. I was a little bit confused because the Collapse Stadium, you have
bench
to play it, but it limits your own bench and you need the 2 Archeops in play. I'm very happy that I'm not the person sitting there playing Lugia. As Daichi now has a kind of a difficult choice. Yeah, I'm very interested to see. He was like thinking about the sneaky gift energy attachment to the Luminion, just to prepare if Caleb plays boss on Luminion, then at least I can draw some more cards. Because of that, or if you just want to get your second Lugia up and running.
Yeah, gift energy's fun. If the Pokemon it's attached to gets KO'd, you draw until you got 7 cards in hand. So attaching it to something like a Luminion is basically like, look, okay, fine. I know you might want to try and KO this, but at least I get some benefit from it. Actually, instead, going for the V-Guard energy, and I kind of like this, because a Mew with Fusion Strike energy would naturally do 190, but now it's only going to be doing 160, so it forces your Mew to have some kind of damage modifier in order to
with double turbo energy.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yes. And there are only 2, in theory you can attach 2 Fusion Strike energy, but to do it with this current board state you would need a Laser Sparkle, which means you cannot play Boss's Orders. So the V-Guard energy instead of the gift energy just gives you the knowledge that, well, for your opponent to take the knockout he needs to have so many good cards. Also, Collapse Stadium got rid of one of the bench, Genesect V. Looking pretty difficult for Caleb, but now at least he's able to use Fusion Strike system again.
Yeah, and he gets himself another Mew, so he's down to 2 Genesect. The Genesect are only drawing until 5, and there's a big difference between 2 drawing until you've got 5 and 3 drawing until you've got 6. So not exactly the stadium Daichi probably wanted, but at least it is hurting Caleb's draw power now that Path to the Peak is off the field and Genesect is reactivated. Now we've got an Iono, and there is a power tablet in hand here, but of course we want Boss's Orders. We do. We got Boss's Orders gets this, and we actually have a Lesser Sparkle in hand as well. So Caleb's actually pretty much got any play he wants available, assuming he can hit the double turbo energy. He could just bring the Luminion active, play the power tablet, and then go digging for that double turbo to get the 2 prizes. If that's the way he wants to go, that's on the board now.
Yeah, he has a lot of options available, but none of them seem too nice right now. I mean, it is game 3, and there's still, I think, enough time on the clock. So I think it's completely fine to now just go into the thinking mode again. Yeah, as we see Caleb actually eyeing down an Archeops. Trying to play the route where you just knock out your opponent's Archeops before they can set up a big Tyranitar V. And then you are able to just win the game because Mew-Mimics also has quite a lot of HP. This is exactly the reason why Lugia is going for the Stinger Strike.
Oh, he's passed. He didn't get the double turbo energy.
Did not even draw the energy card. This is looking very terrible because, like we saw last game, you can always just use Primal Turbo to just retreat your Pokemon that way, or just attach the energy.
So here comes the energy on Lugia from the Archeops. We've got all the energy on there. Now, it's not enough to get a KO on Mew V Max. Now, this would actually be a great turn to Boss's Orders onto a Mew V or a Genesect, preferably a Genesect, obviously, stop the draw power, and then get that one big, because Caleb basically has to attack with Mew V Max at this point. Yes. So if you could get a Boss's Orders, it would be amazing. Doesn't look like he's got that. But I kind of love this for Daichi at this stage because basically what you've got here is, look, I'm not one-hit KOing, I'm two-hit KOing, I don't care. I'm going to attack 3 times and win the game. I don't think you're going to it's going to be 3 KOs. I don't think you can take 3 KOs now before I've attacked 2 more times.
Yeah, this is such a difficult situation for Caleb to maneuver, especially now because of the Silver Tempest, I think it's called. There is no stadium card in play anymore, so
Nope.
Daichi has the bench space he needs for either Tempest Dive, for either the Yveltal or Tyranitar.
Yep.
And Daichi only needs 1 knockout on Mew, and then you can even knock out Genesect or a Mew V, because there was already the knockout taken on Meloetta early in the game.
And if there's no KO here, then things get very nice for Daichi because you can basically save your Lugia with all the energy on, take a KO with, your Tyranitar, or maybe your Yveltal, and then your opponent's in an awkward situation. I like setting up an end of game where I've got 2 attackers, and whichever one my opponent doesn't KO, I win the game with the following turn. That's essentially where Daichi is potentially going here. If you can get if that Lugia doesn't get KO'd, and it's not looking terribly likely, then next turn you set up a Tyranitar, and then you KO a Tyranitar, and it's a case of, well, I've got Tyranitar and Lugia, whichever one you don't KO wins the game next turn. Might need a boss's orders, but that would basically be all Daichi actually needed, and there is another minion in the deck to potentially go and get it. So I'm loving this for Daichi at this stage. Caleb, I mean, we've got, what, 1 V-Guard energy on there. Mew is almost certainly going to need double turbo, and we've already seen a couple of power tablets hit the discard pile. I'm not sure Mew can get to 310 this turn.
No, as we see the Psychic Leap, a very nice option to have to just get your Mew back into the deck. You get rid of all the damage that you had. But the big problem is it doesn't really deal a lot of damage. Yeah, Caleb used the power tablet to negate kind of the effect of the V-Guard energy. But because of the double turbo, it's 20 less damage. So plus 30, minus 50, that's and 70 damage, that's 50 damage left.
I'm not sure this even makes that much of a difference, though, because if I'm Daichi, I'm still one Tyranitar to KO the Mew, and then Lugia boss to KO a Genesect next turn. Like, if I'm Daichi, I'm still looking to win in 2 turns, even after that Psychic Leap. So now we actually want Tails. It's been Tails every time. We want Tails this time. They need to start rolling these dice where we can see them, David. I want to know what that came up with.
It seems like there is no Pokemon actually leaving the deck, so probably a head. It's actually interesting because usually you have like the good effect on heads, and then tails usually does nothing. But on this card specifically, it really depends whether you want heads or tails.
It's so awkward. But the times he wanted heads, he got tails, and now he desperately needs a tails, and he goes and gets a heads. That is a risk, I suppose, of playing Capturing Aroma, but it's not ideal. Now, does he have a big darkness type attacker?
There's also the boss in hand, so you might just think about, well, I will take the boss now.
Love it.
And then the moment, because you have 2 Archeops in play, you just need anything. And if this Lugia gets knocked out, Gift Energy activates, and you get a full new hand. So it's almost impossible for Caleb, I think, to maneuver this. But if anyone knows how to do it, it's him.
Caleb is a phenomenal player, and you know he's played Mew a lot, you know he's played against Lugia a lot, but at this stage, Meloetta's kind of off the table. There's two Fusion Strike Energy at least that are gone. So Caleb could attack with a Meloetta, but he'd only be doing like 140 odd damage. It wouldn't really be doing that much. And then he's not getting a KO on the Lugia, so he's kind of got a KO attack with a Mew, but if he attacks with a Mew, then he just gets KO'd by a return Tyranitar or an Yveltal.
Yes.
So you can kind of try and attack with Ice Cube and maybe, can you quite KO the Archeops? But
no.
I don't think you can. I think you're like a tiny bit short. So it's like...
And there are 2 fusion energy cards in the discard pile already.
Yeah, so you're doing a maximum... Yeah, you're not doing enough, I don't think.
We see a desperation play. Attach energy, retreat, and now Caleb just hopes that Daichi doesn't have anything. I mean, maybe... All of the attackers are on the prize
Okay, we need Tails, David. It is a Tails! Okay, that is going to be the game. We're going to search for a Tyranitar or an Yveltal. Either one will do. It doesn't really matter.
As long as there are enough energy cards. And probably this is the one option that Caleb has. We see Tyranitar hitting the field. We see the first Archeops for
going for the
single strike energy, and
We
there's
only
two
need
left.
two.
Yeah.
There we
There
go.
are
So
two
there's
left.
two Fusion
Two
Strike
of
energy.
any card, and this is game.
Yeah, there's the other two from the other Archeops. Lugia's got enough to retreat. Tyranitar takes the KO, and Daichi takes a very good 2-1 win. Game 1, not what Daichi wanted, David, but game 2 and 3, that made a difference. And we've got, I'm just turning around and have a look at the crowd here. There is a lot of cheering. Daichi's a bit of a fan favorite in the crowd.
Yes, I mean, here's the Japanese runner-up, so probably in like the heart of many Japanese players, he's the best player in the game right now because of that amazing finish last year at the World Championship. And they know, well, he already did it once, he can do it once more. Also, he loves Mew, so I think he loves Mew even more now, that you can just take easy wins against it.
And I mean, the new version of Lugia changed massively when rotation hit. The new version of Lugia is very much a single strike deck.
Yes.
It's got Lugia and it's got those single strike attackers, and it just so turns out that two of them, Tyranitar and Yveltal, are darkness type, so that gives you a really excellent Mew VMAX matchup if it works. And we saw game 1, I mean, that was a worst possible situation. Game 1, turn 1,
Yes.
literally turn 1, here we go. And unfortunately, it just did not come out. In game 2, that was actually game 3 we saw there, that Tails flip, which is pretty big. Daichi flips the Tails there. It's not what he wanted, but we see, you know, it's going rough at the beginning of the game, but then we get the KO with the Lugia. The ball starts rolling, and once Lugia starts rolling, it really was just everything you need. That was the heads that we really needed to be a Tails, another little Easter egg, but here we finally get the only time all match we get the right flip on capturing Aroma.
Yeah, capturing Aroma is such a weird card. Like, you need nerves of steel to play the Yu-Gi-Oh, I think.